Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a nice 12-game Major League Baseball slate. Before I get started, can you guys smack that like and subscribe button? Also, make sure to check out Discord in the description below. I will also note that here I have a page for home run and weather stuff, and so I also recommend following Kevin Roth on Twitter, as he definitely gives you really good information for weather updates throughout the day. Also, check out the description below for the community members section for YouTube. I just got that accepted on YouTube here, and you can join that and get my daily write-ups for all the different sports I do and stuff. Most days it's baseball and NBA, but other days I have other stuff, and today I have some WNBA stuff as well. So make sure to check that out. Before I get let's go ahead and get into the slate. This will be for DraftKings and FanDuel today. So again, it's a really good slate, so let's go ahead and get into it here. We're going to start with our pitchers. And McClanahan is the top overall option, as he draws really good metrics for this game, and he definitely has the best matchup of the expensive plays. His ceiling is not as high as I typically like $11,000 players to be, but he's definitely in play as he's got a good matchup and he's got a good potential here. Paxton and Lopez are P1 alternates, as they both draw tougher matchups, but they do have good upside. Nobody on this slate really has that 35 fantasy point upside that I typically like to find as a P1 option, but these guys both have 20 fantasy point plus upside, and they've both been pitching decently well, and so I do think they're viable. Peralta for Milwaukee is also in play, though he seems a little bit riskier today, as he's been somewhat inconsistent this season, but he can be a P1 or a P2 option at this price. Some other P2 options here are Miller for the Dodgers, who I really like today against Kansas City, though his last two games have been rough. He definitely draws good metrics for this one. Alex Cobb is also in play for San Francisco, though he does have a really tough matchup here, as he's a good alternative, but he's a decent alternative here, as he's been pretty solid recently. Looking at the other options in Hail Mary for P2, Canning, Creamer, and Beto are all in a similar price range, and all face decent opponents where they have some capability, but they're somewhat risky as they don't have super high upside, but they do have, 15 to 20 fantasy point upside. Then we'll look at Blanco and Lorenzen for Houston and Detroit, who have some low-end upside here, though both in unappealing situations. And then Goomber and Banks are just super Hail Mary calls. Goomber is potentially going to be a very contrarian option if Detroit doesn't do well in this game in Colorado. He could technically be decent. And then Tanner Banks has some low-end upside as a guy that's only going to play 2 or 3 innings but have a chance to get 3 to 5 strikeouts. So maybe in our catchers, we're going to look at Will Smith here for the Dodgers as a top overall option. He's got home run upside and solid WOBA here, so I do think he's a viable option. Sean Murphy is also in play as an alternative to him. He's got nice WOBA versus pitcher, and he's got good upside in this matchup. I like his home run potential as well. And then Jake Rogers for Detroit. He is also in play, and I can't find him all of a sudden. Oh yeah, because I have him a core play. I'm stupid. He has home run metrics for this game. The metrics are really off the charts today. If he hits a home run, he'll definitely pay off. He'll probably be pretty popular as well. You could also consider Eric Haas and Adley Rutschman at this position. Moving into the first baseman, we're going to start with Ohtani, who's just really here because he's just monkeying the ball lately. Just absolutely hitting the crap out of it every single game. And he's scoring tons of fantasy points, which you can't tell on FanDuel or on DraftKings, but he is. He's averaging like 15 fantasy points a game the last 10 or so from a hitting perspective. The metrics are a little bit lower today than they have been the last few games, but he definitely just draws maximum potential. Freddie Freeman is also in play. He's got a good WOBA and ISO for this game. He's got good, strong home run upside. I like his potential here. Then Torkelson for Detroit has been pretty inconsistent this season, but the last couple games he's hit the ball really well, and he's been hitting better lately, though he does strike out a lot. He has home run potential in this one, and he's a decent option for a Detroit stack. I really like Lamont Wade Jr. for San Francisco as well. He's only $100 more expensive than Torkelson, and he's got top-tier metrics on this particular slate. You can also consider Christian Walker, Matt Olson, Andrew Vaughn, Anthony Rizzo, Luke Raley, and Rowdy Tellez at this position. Then we're going to look at our second baseman, and we'll start with Estrada for San Francisco. He doesn't have the best metrics today, but he does draw top-tier WOBA versus the pitcher, so I do like his upside from that perspective. Gabby Torres is a great play today, though he's somewhat expensive on DraftKings. He is a little bit slumpy as well, but he has home run upside. Even as for Detroit, can play second base or outfield, and he does have some higher risks than some of the other bats for Detroit is not a big home run threat, but he's cheap and he does have some potential today. Julian for Minnesota also in play today as he draws really good metrics, and I like his upside. He's got good potential here, and I like his home run upside. And then DJ LeMahieu is also in play. He can also play third base as he's pretty cheap and he draws good potential, though he hasn't hit the ball very well this season. He's got good metrics, not much home run upside, though. Maybe in the shortstops, we'll look at Riley third baseman. We'll look at Riley. Why did I say shortstop? Third base, Riley for Atlanta is my top tier play as he's hitting the ball pretty well lately, averaging almost 11 fantasy points a game, and he's got great metrics here. Ryan McMahon has been a little bit slumpy, but he has home run potential in this one. He's kind of a boomer bust play as he hasn't hit the ball all that great lately with a lot of strikeouts, but he does have the potential here. They're a little bit pricey. Rafael Devers is actually not that much more expensive than him, but he draws good matchup metrics for this game, and he has home run potential, though he does feel a little bit boomer busty here from the home run upside. Davis for San Francisco, also very nice today. I like his potential and draws good matchup metrics for this one. Then we'll look at DJ LeMahieu already at the Yankees and Josh Donaldson for the Yankees. Donaldson is borderline on a Hail Mary play as he hasn't hit the ball well this season, but he's had 2 home runs the last 3 games, so he draws some utility here. Maybe in a shortstop, we are going to get to Mookie Betts here. His metrics are not great, but they're good enough, and he's hit the ball extremely low lately. He is kind of boomer bust where he seems to score 20 fantasy points or 0 the last few games, so I do like him, but he's high risk. Baez is overpriced. Oops, wrong Baez. Javier Baez for Detroit, overpriced here due to the matchup, but he does have home run potential, though I think he's going to be somewhat hard to roster here on DraftKings, where he's a lot easier on FanDuel. Willy Adames is also in play for Milwaukee, as he hasn't hit the ball well this season, but he does have home run potential today, and a Milwaukee stack is definitely possible on the slate. Volpe from the Yankees is also in play, as he has hit the ball really well recently, and he's hitting the ball pretty solid, where he started the season good, but he has not been good in the middle of it. But I like him today, and he draws good metrics for this game. You could also consider Gunnar Henderson and Orlando Arcia at this position. Excuse me here. Then we're going to get our outfielders, and we're going to start with Acuna, Ohtani, and Mookie Betts. They are the top 3 overall plays at this position. I think Acuna is really hard to roster today, but super viable. Berling for Detroit is in play for here. He's actually got good home run potential here. He has been getting lots of hits, though, and so that gives him some utility. I meant to say he doesn't have home run potential here, but he has really good hitting, and so I like his upside. Eloy Jimenez has good home run potential. The metrics are decent today. He's a little bit priced. He's priced pretty fairly for his upside and has good metrics for this one. Andy Ibanez is available at outfield as well. Bader for the Yankees, as well as Stanton, are both in play today, both kind of home run upside guys, and they are definitely a stackable team as they are pretty fairly priced here, and they draw some good metrics here. Though Stanton is borderline a Hail Mary play. Brennan Nemo has hit the ball really well, and if you go with a Mets stack, he's definitely somebody I would have in there. He's hitting home runs, too, which is somewhat shocking. Duran for for Boston is in play for as he has really good metrics for this game, though he does have a little bit of a tough matchup. Michael Harris is a core play. He is just absolutely hitting the ball well right now, and man, he started the season real rough, but he finally got going. Now he's rolling, and I like his upside. He's drawing great upside in this one. Hunter Renfroe is a little bit more expensive to him, but he does have home run upside as well. He's also hit home runs in 2 straight games, so he is a little bit boomer or bust in that perspective. Eric Haas is a good contrarian option for the catcher or outfield today, as he draws some home run metrics, but he's high risk, high reward for Detroit. And then Luke Raley for Tampa Bay draws some good metrics here, though he is also high risk, high reward. He's a little bit pricey, and he's a little bit harder to roster today than normally. Maybe in our FanDuel stuff, my top overall pitcher is Shane McClanahan. Just overall the best upside on the slate at pitcher. Peralta is a little bit cheaper and a good contrarian option off of him, and I think he's the best, $9,000 price range guy. And then the kind of Hail Mary option is Dan Creamer, though I don't think he's a great option. He's cheap enough that he can help you pay up for some other options in the bats. So then we'll get our bats, and Freddie Freeman and Will Smith definitely check out as good plays. So they are super expensive today, and there are 3 guys I really like at catcher and first base at this position on FanDuel, and they're cheap, and that's Torkelson, Wade Jr., and Jake Rogers. All of them have really good upside, and so I do like their potentials. Moving to second base, Mookie Betts and Estrada, both expensive. Also Marcus Semien. But Gabby Torres is actually really underpriced, and the Yankees stack is very doable here on FanDuel, where some of them are cheap, and so I do think he's a viable option. Third base, Ryan McMahon and Ibanez are both in play today, though they are somewhat hard or annoyingly priced. Ibanez is actually nice and cheap. McMahon's a little bit overpriced. Rafael Devers is definitely overpriced for his potential today, but J.D. Davis is also cheap and a good contrarian off of Ibanez. Moving to shortstop, Mookie Betts is expensive here and hard to roster, whereas Javier Baez is much more rosterable on FanDuel. He's nice and cheap and definitely doesn't have the bump that he got over on DraftKings. Corey Seager is also in play, but also somewhat hard to roster due to price. My top three overall outfielders are Acuna, Ohtani, and Mookie Betts again. All three of these guys have really good metrics for this game. I think Acuna is a little bit easier to roster here on FanDuel, as he's not quite as expensive as he is on DraftKings per dollar for what you can spend. And then for the outfielders that are cheap, Eloy Jimenez and Verling both draw really good metrics here. Though Verling doesn't have the home run upside, he definitely draws good potential. They're both really cheap. Kyle Tucker is just too cheap for this position. It has some good upside here. Ibanez is cheap and can also play other positions. Harrison Bader and Giancarlo Stanton are good parts of a Yankee stack if you want to go that way. They both have home run potential, but Stanton is a borderline Hail Mary play. Jock Peterson and Hunter Renfroe and Eric Haas all have home run potential here, but they are somewhat a high risk, but they have good home run upside. Brandon Nimmo has lower home run upside, but he's hitting the ball really well lately. Josh Lowe has also got some good upside, and Michael Harris is a borderline core play for FanDuel, as he's nice and cheap, and he's absolutely smashing the ball. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.